Hi, I'm Claire Wilson and this is my Fmp pre-module presentation. My family and I moved out of London to Dorset 5 years ago, and throughout this AMA I have been investigating how I and my family engage and interface with the rural Dorset landscape, and using photography as a method to question and investigate this. The global pandemic has, like for many others, had a huge impact on my work, and I have had to adapt to the restrictions that have been placed on us. As time has gone on, my work has got much closer to home, and my domestic environment has actually become an inspiration for me. As I am a full-time mother, my work is both inspired and restricted by my location and place in my landscape. It has forced me to think creatively how I can produce and represent my work, and forced me to work with what is within my immediate location. I have moved about within my projects, but I have started to see trends and areas of interest within my work: the constructed image, installations in the landscape, materiality of the image, and the interplay between the physical and digital image, and experimenting with cameraless photography through lumen prints. Sian Bonnell's work is a commentary on the way family situation and care responsibilities impinge on her work, particularly for a period of years where childcare responsibilities are paramount. And her work has made me realise that this is something I should work with and not against. Her work feels like they have given me permission to work within the sphere of looking at the everyday. In my last module, I focused my work on a more personal project about my private domestic space. The pandemic has brought to the front how the different areas of my life are sometimes conflicted. Being a mother, a photographer, a wife, it is something I wanted to address within my work. Initially, I wanted to capture the silence and abandonment that I felt with my children's return to school in September. I wanted to capture the traces of their existence and the fleeting memories of their activities and play, of the everyday, which are so often overlooked. They represent a time of transformation, a restructuring of my identity, my time and my family unit. But as the project progressed, I was drawn to the issue of hidden labour, as I felt the images I was taking were a call to action for me to undertake some form of domestic activity. Susan Bright addresses in her book Home Truths the complexity and contradictions of motherhood as the swings between excess and loss, abundance and void. My work also referenced how women have been represented in art as an object and not a subject, and I wanted to disrupt the expected representation of women, and my work acted as a quiet rebellion against the expectation that society places on women and the issue of hidden labour. During the Christmas break, this led me to reflect on my own relationship with my mother, who passed away in 2006, and her role within our family as a traditional housewife, and I started to delve into family archives, where I came across this wonderful book, which has been handed down from my grandmother to my mother and then on to me. It is most definitely a book of its time and will be a key resource for my work going forward. Mrs. Beaton's book is all about order, cleanliness, punctuality, method and routine, which has become extraordinarily difficult during lockdown when your home must fulfil so many roles such as office, school, family space, gym, studio, restaurant. The pressure on families to balance all of these needs is intense, and it has disrupted what a home is generally thought of. Family archives can unite a family and bind a family together to create unity. They can turn a house into a home, but they can also stretch integration of a family beyond home into time and space. They allow the domestic space to be connected to distant spaces. Lockdown has restricted us and is quite claustrophobic, but this reviewing of the archives has allowed me to expand my horizons. Family archives and albums are created through a form of domestic labour, and certainly in my family, the collation, storage and recording is a gendered act and a very domestic act, as women are seen as the ones managing the domestic order. These family archives inhabit different places within my home. Some are engaged with, whilst others sit inertly in boxes stored away in cupboards. Some of the reason for this is they are incompatible to modern day living and point to the issue of hidden labour. They can't go in the dishwasher, items need polishing, they need ironed, and perhaps by working with these objects I can bring them back out into the open and give them a new life. At this stage, I'm not 100% sure which direction my work will take. It might take the form of more of a conversation with my mother, as Jessica Fairbrother does with her work, but it will be a conversation through domesticity, my domestic space, and the collected histories of the women in my family. Or I may continue with the work more specifically focused on the issue of hidden labour, or perhaps a combination of both. I am hoping the experimentation in my work will help me to firm up on the intent for my MA. I see the output of this work as possibly being shown in the book format. I really enjoy this domestic, tactile nature of producing my work. It may be interesting to include some text from Mrs. Beaton's book to provide greater context. I think how the pandemic and lockdown develop over the next 6 months will also influence the output of my work. The pandemic has forced us to rethink about how we utilise our private domestic spaces, so it might be interesting to subvert or play with the traditional patriarchal relationship between man and the land. I could investigate the private, gendered domestic space versus the male public spaces and their perspective and control of the landscape by creating an exhibition in an outdoor space with the aim of making the private domestic space public.